Okay, so today's video is honestly one of my favorites to film every single year. I'm talking about the best drugstore launches of 2024. Every year I say like this was the drugstore's best year, and I can't imagine they're going to do anything better than this. And then every year it actually gets better and better. I had a really long list to start with as I was planning out this video, and I had to narrow it down to 20 products, which still sounds like a lot, but I chose the top 5 products in 4 categories. So face products, cheek products, eye products, and lip products. I might do a part 2 and share like the runner-up products. If that's something you'd want to see, let me know. But let me know which products you thought were the absolute best launches this year and what you would love to see the brands do in 2025. I know a lot of you watch my videos because of my drugstore content, or that's how you found my channel. So thank you so much for watching my videos this past year. I'm excited to review all of the new drugstore launches for 2025. I actually already placed a few orders, so I'll have some videos coming your way within the next few weeks. But in the meantime, let's talk about all of the best products from this past year. My favorite primer of the year was a little bit of a later release. I think it just came out a few months ago. It is the Milani Conceal and Perfect Blur Out Smoothing Primer. This is without a doubt one of the highest quality face primers I've ever tried, drugstore or high-end. It's a little bit more expensive compared to other drugstore primers. It's $15.99. And I do notice that Milani seems to be raising their prices across the board. A lot of the products have gone up a few dollars, and that's just something to keep in mind. I do think the quality of this product is definitely worth it, and I would probably even be willing to pay a little bit more for it, to be honest. Milani is usually a little bit less expensive at Target and Walmart, but since it was a newer launch, I could only find it at Ulta. Anyway, this is a really beautiful smoothing primer. It definitely has an interesting texture to it. When you apply to the skin, it feels a little bit cooling, very refreshing. The way they describe the texture of this product online is, I think they describe it as like a whipped souffle, which makes a little bit of sense. It's very airy. It kind of feels a little bit moussey, but it leaves your skin looking incredibly smooth, poreless, just like everything that I look for in a primer. I definitely like a very smooth, even base when it comes to my makeup, and this just preps my skin so well. What's nice about this product is it is moisturizing, and like I said, it feels really refreshing on the skin, but it leaves your skin with more of a satin leaning matte finish, and it stays that way throughout the day. So makeup wears perfectly on top of this. It's not going to slide and slip around like it might on top of other smoothing primers. So I absolutely love this product. I think it's a great option if you deal with texture or large pores and you like the idea of something that's kind of like a good all-in-one. My favorite foundation of the year was definitely the e.l.f. Soft Glam Satin Foundation. This is an $8 foundation that honestly performs so much better than a lot of high-end foundations I've tried. It has the most beautiful skin-like finish. It has great coverage. It's definitely a true medium coverage foundation, so it does work to kind of boost the skin, but you can sheer it out to get it to look even more natural if that's something you want to do, whether you like to really buff it into the skin or use your fingers or a damp beauty sponge. It has a little bit of a glow to it, but it doesn't leave your skin looking oily or greasy. And on my oily skin, it actually stays in place really, really well. So I do find it to be a pretty long wearing foundation, which is amazing. So I'm really impressed by this. I wear the shade 20 Light Cool. I did get a little bit of a tan a couple of months ago, so I feel like I could probably go up a shade or two, but I usually just mix in bronzing drops. If you haven't tried this yet, I do recommend it. I used to love the e.l.f. Flawless Finish Foundation, and some people say these are the exact same. I don't know. I like this one a little bit better. It does remind me of that foundation, but I feel like this one wears better on my skin and actually looks better on my skin. So kind of similar, but just boosted in my opinion. Bronzer drops have never really been like an essential part of my makeup routine until this year. I definitely found myself using them a little bit more. I would use them to either adjust the shade of my foundation, or I would use them before I even went in with foundation. And it's because I tried these 2 formulas from the drugstore. So I'll just kind of talk about them at the same time because they are different, but they're both really great. So the e.l.f. bronzing drops I think are a little bit more ideal if you like to mix your bronzing drop in with a product, whether that is a moisturizer, a skin tint, or your actual foundation. These are very rich and pretty pigmented, so a little bit goes a long way, and I find that mixing them in with another product just helps to make them look a little bit more natural on the skin. So I have these bronzing drops in pure gold, but they actually have 3 different options to choose from. You can wear them on their own. I would just recommend going in with a little bit less than you typically would from other brands. They're not quite as silky as the next formula I'm going to talk about, but they do blend in well enough. It might just take an extra second or two. So these are an amazing option. I really would not recommend spending your money on a more expensive alternative until you try these, and a little bit goes a long way. So I tried these months ago, and I feel like I still have a good amount in here. I also tried this formula from Milani. These are the Conceal and Perfect Sun-Kissed Liquid Bronzing Drops. So I think these also come in 3 different shades. I have 110 Light. I find that this formula is less pigmented. It's slightly thinner and maybe a little bit silkier than e.l.f.'s formula. So when I want to wear bronzing drops like directly on my skin and I don't necessarily need to mix them in with something, I do think that this is a great option because it's not quite as intense as e.l.f.'s formula. So it blends out really fast. It looks really natural on the skin. When it comes down to it, I think both e.l.f. and Milani did such a great job on their formulas. You could really go with either one. Obviously, if you want a little bit more pigment, go with e.l.f. If you want something that blends in a little bit easier, that looks more natural on the skin, go with Milani. But you could wear both on their own or mix them into products and you'll be happy with the formulas. So for the last product in my face category, I kind of went back and forth on a few different products. I could not decide which one to go with. In the end, I chose this one because I was really impressed by the quality. It came out at the very beginning of 2024, or maybe even the end of 2023, and I found myself reaching for it a lot over the year. It is the NYX Pro Fix Stick Concealer. So this actually comes in 24 different shades. They also have color correcting shades. I think there's a green, maybe like an orange or a salmon shade, and then also a red. But this is a really nice texture. I don't usually use a lot of cream concealers or pot concealers or stick concealers. I usually stick with a typical liquid concealer because I find that they blend out really easily. But I find that this is the perfect formula as a spot concealer. It's very creamy, so it just glides on the skin. And what I like to do is use my finger just to kind of tap it into any area where I want to conceal. And the warmth of your finger kind of melts the product in the most perfect way. It's very, very long lasting. There's almost a little bit of, I don't want to say a tackiness, but it's slightly thicker than a typical liquid concealer. So once it dries down, it doesn't move, which is perfect if you're spot concealing or if you're color correcting. You can definitely use this under the eyes as like a typical under eye concealer, but I think it works best either as a color corrector or as a spot concealer because it is a little bit of a thicker formula. If you have wrinkles or fine lines, it can settle into those areas just a little bit. So I recommend using a very small amount and really just in the areas where you typically need it. And if you do that, I think you'll be really impressed by the quality of it as well. Honestly, what a great year for cheek products at the drugstore. There were so many good launches, powders, liquids, creams in all different categories, bronzers, blushes, highlighters, and the drugstore as a whole has come such a long way when it comes to cheek products, but I don't think there have ever been so many amazing launches like one right after the other. My favorite powder formula would definitely have to be the NYX Buttermelt bronzers and blushes. These are so gorgeous on the skin. I love a very smooth, incredibly blendable powder. Sometimes I struggle a little bit with bronzer and it can look patchy or muddy on my skin, and that is never the case with this formula from NYX. So let's start with the bronzer. They came out with 8 different shades. A lot of the shades do lean a little bit rosy or a little bit red toned, which actually really appealed to me because I think so many bronzers lean very, very orangey, and an orange bronzer is like my least favorite thing in the entire world. Don't get me wrong, some of these are pretty warm tones, so you might want to either check them out in person. Actually, I would recommend checking them out in person if at all possible, or looking up swatches because the initial promo photos did look a little bit different than a lot of the shades appeared in person. So just something to keep in mind. So I have the shade All Buttered Up, which is a light medium warm. This formula truly blends out like a dream. It is so smooth, so even on the skin. I've heard people describe these as like full on glittery. I've never gotten that. I definitely get a little bit of a glow from them, and you'll see when I swatch it, like you can tell there's a little bit of a sheen, but it looks amazing on the skin. It's very natural. It's not over the top. So I kind of love like that slight added glow because I feel like it makes my skin look more skin-like. Like after I go in with my base products and I set everything with powders, sometimes my skin can look a little bit too flat or a little bit too matte. So the next product I usually go in with is bronzer, and this is the perfect way to add just a little bit more, what's the word? Not just like warmth to the skin and dimension to my face, but because it has that really pretty natural glow, it just kind of adds life back to the skin. So I'm a big fan of these. The blushes are also so stunning. There are 12 different blush shades. Now, most of the shades are very bright, very vibrant. I myself don't typically wear a ton of super bold blush, but I do have some really bright, beautiful shades from the line. So I'll swatch the 4 shades I do have. These are very rich, super pigmented, so you really don't have to go in with a ton. And if you don't like a super pigmented formula, I would recommend using like a large fluffy brush and just going in with a very small amount. And again, these blushes do have like that really beautiful natural glow to them. Some of the blushes also have actual shimmer mixed into the formula on top of that, and they do differentiate online, so just something to keep in mind. But if you want a very vibrant blush that blends out effortlessly, that looks amazing and wears really well throughout the day, I highly recommend these. I actually have two different liquid formulas I want to talk about. Let's start with this formula from e.l.f. I think these came out at the very beginning of 2024 because I feel like I've been talking about these for so long on my channel. These are the Camo Liquid Blushes. In my opinion, these are the closest dupe to the Rare Beauty blushes out there, but these are less expensive. Rare Beauty's blushes are actually a pretty good deal because you get a lot of product for the price, and because they are so rich and so incredibly pigmented, like you're not going to run through that product very quickly at all. But if you are looking for a less expensive alternative, I highly recommend checking these out. They also recently expanded the line, so they came out with a few new shades. These are so effortless to apply. They really just melt into the skin. They blend out in seconds. They look so good. They have a very beautiful, like natural satin finish to them. Although I do think some of them end up looking a little bit glowier on the skin than others, but these are really, really stunning. I like these because, they're affordable. And if you're someone who doesn't wear like a ton of hot pink blush, but you want to try it out, it's a really easy way to add this color to your collection without spending a ton of money. And the formula, because it is like a very blendable, easy to work with formula, just makes shades that are a little bit out of your comfort zone a little bit easier to work into your makeup routine, a little less intimidating. They did end up doing liquid bronzers and liquid contours a few months ago as well. And I think that these are a great option. To be fair, I'm not the biggest fan of liquid bronzers just as a whole. I definitely prefer a cream bronzer, but I do think this Camo Liquid Bronzer, in my opinion, is a lot easier to use than the Halo Glow liquid bronzer. Is that what it was called? Was that last year when e.l.f. launched those? I wasn't a big fan of that entire line, like the highlighters, the blushes, or the contours. In my opinion, these are much easier to apply. They look less streaky on the skin. The colors are more beautiful. They just blend out easily. So I highly recommend trying these out if you haven't already, especially if you are looking for a great affordable option. They have really good pigment, a really good shade range overall. Essence also launched a line of liquid blushes and liquid highlighters. They don't have liquid bronzers yet, at least not in this exact line, but I feel like those will be coming in 2025. So these are the Baby Got Blush liquid blushes and the Baby Got Glow liquid highlighters. If you find that the e.l.f. formula or the Rare Beauty formula is a little bit too intense for you, like I've read comments like that, like, oh, I love the shades, but those are still a little bit too pigmented for me, this might be the way to go. Overall, I tend to keep my cheek products more on the subtle side. I don't usually go in with a ton of color, a ton of product. So I actually really like this formula because you can build it up, but it is significantly easier to sheer out than e.l.f.'s formula or Rare Beauty's formula. So you can get more of a natural look overall. They don't have quite as many options as e.l.f. They have 4 blushes and 3 highlighters, but the other thing that I like about this formula is it actually layers really well on top of powders. So, typically when I am using liquids or creams, I'll apply them before I apply setting powder. But what I like about these is you can actually set your makeup into place and then go in with these products, and they actually layer really well on top of lightly set makeup. They do have the sponge tip applicator, so if you are a fan of that style of packaging, these might appeal to you. I think they're really gorgeous on the skin, super easy to work with. You can also mix the highlighters with the blushes to get a little bit more of a glowy effect, because overall, I do find that these blushes look more matte on the skin compared to e.l.f.'s formula. So again, that could be a pro or a con for you, but a great option, super affordable. They're $5.99 each, and Essence is always on sale on Ulta's website. Okay, so when I was sitting down coming up with like my favorite products, the first product that I added to the cheek category was this one from Catrice. This is their Blush Affair Cream and Powder Palette. For $7, you get a duo that comes with a powder blush and then a cream blush. When these first launched, a lot of people were like, oh, those are dupes for Patrick Ta. They look just like the Patrick Ta blush duos. They're definitely not the same at all. In fact, I almost like these a little bit better than Patrick Ta. And I'm definitely a fan of the Patrick Ta blush duos. Like those are one of my favorite products from Sephora, but I think that these have a little bit more pigment and they last better on the skin. The powder just applies perfectly. It definitely has more of a matte finish compared to Patrick Ta, which has a little bit of a glow to it, but it's incredibly long lasting. You can build it up to look more intense on the cheeks, and the powder is the cream is very, very rich. In my experience, the creams in the Patrick Ta blush duos lean more on the sheer side, and you can kind of use them like on top of the powder to add a little bit of a glow. You can wear the cream on top of the powder in here, but in my experience, they work best when you use the cream underneath and then the powder on top to set it, or if you just use them separately. I love the texture of this cream because it's not overly creamy or overly balmy. It doesn't feel oily. It is like a true rich cream. So a little bit goes a long way, and it does not move all day long. It's not going to break down or move around or melt away. It looks amazing and stays that way throughout the entire day as you're wearing your makeup. They do have 4 different duos. They have some really bright, vibrant duos. They have a little bit of like a lighter peachy duo, and then they have this one, which is the one that I wear the most. Okay, one last product in this category. I had to go with the Milani Cheek Kiss Cream Bronzer. So a few years ago, they did the Cheek Kiss Cream Blushes, which I love. I think those are so beautiful. I do think this formula is a little bit different than those. Those are kind of oily feeling in a way, not in a bad way, in a very flattering way. They look very pretty on the skin. This one actually has more of a matte finish, especially for a cream, which is why I love it, because when it comes to cream bronzers, a lot of cream bronzers are super slippery. They are very melty. They don't fully set down when you wear them on the skin. And that's not the case with this one. It is very creamy, so it applies perfectly, but it actually stays in place really well throughout the day. It's not overly moisturizing or super glowy or a little bit oily. So if you're someone who has, oily skin, or you just don't like the texture of a lot of overly creamy cream bronzers, this would actually be an amazing option. A little bit goes a long way because it is so rich and pigmented. You really don't need a lot. Now, the only concern that a lot of people have, or not the only concern, but the big concern that a lot of people have when it comes to this product is that it doesn't come with a ton of product for the price, which I definitely think is a valid concern. It comes with 0.21 ounces. So compared to, other options out there, you might end up getting a similar amount of product when you break it down price per ounce, even from some high-end brands. But I'm telling you, I've been using this product very, very regularly for like all of 2024, and I still haven't hit pan on it. And I actually hit pan and use up cream bronzers fairly regularly because I do have a little bit of a heavy hand when it comes to cream bronzer. So if you're someone who'd rather pay a lower price, or you don't think you'd fly through it before it would end up drying out or expiring, it might still be worth grabbing this one from the drugstore. So definitely one of my favorite cheek product launches of the year. So this year at the drugstore was kind of like the year of the Click Up Glossy Pen. Every brand was launching their version of Tarte's Maracuja Juicy Lip, which I do love that product a lot. But at this point, there are so many affordable alternatives out there that you don't have to spend the money on that one. So 2 of them ended up becoming some of my favorite products this year. So let's start with this one from e.l.f. This is the Pout Clout Lip Plumping Pen. Now, I do think this product has gotten some mixed reviews. It's definitely not the same formula as Tarte's formula. So if you are looking for an exact dupe, I have one that's a little bit closer that I'll talk about in a second. To me, this one leans more in the direction of like a glossy lipstick rather than a glossy lip balm. I am wearing a little bit of the shade Toasted, so I have a lipstick on, and then I have this on top, and then I have a lip oil on top of that. Although at this point, a lot of the product has kind of worn off because I have been talking for a while. But the reason why I like e.l.f.'s formula is because these have slightly more pigment. They are glossy and super comfortable, like pretty much any other Click Up glossy stick, but they do look more like a traditional lipstick on the lips. They're slightly thicker, they're a little bit longer lasting. They have 8 different shades to choose from. There is a little bit of a cooling feel on the lips when you apply them, and they do have not like a bad taste and scent, but definitely an interesting scent, at least, that I can't quite place. So that might be a con for you if you are not a fan of scented products. I would definitely recommend pairing these with a lip liner. Sometimes they can look a little bit streaky on the lips, and I think that's because, while they lean in the direction of a lipstick, they're not fully opaque like a lot of other lipsticks. Like they definitely still have a slight, like a touch of a sheer quality to them because they are like a glossy lipstick. It's hard to explain. So I think they look best paired with a lip liner underneath. Once you apply them, I recommend using your finger to like really blend them in because they are slightly thicker than some of the other formulas I've tried. And once you do that, I think they look amazing on the lips. Like I said, they stay in place really well. They give you a good amount of color, and they just feel and look slightly more like a glossy lipstick, which I personally love. Now, if you want something that feels more like the typical Tarte Maracuja Juicy Lip formula, I would recommend trying ColourPop's, I always forget the official name, So Juicy Plumping Gloss Balms. These are a little bit thinner than e.l.f. They also tend to lean more on the sheer side, so they're not quite as intense. And in my opinion, these feel just like a typical glossy balm. They don't really have like that lipstick feel or aspect to them. So these come in 9 different shades. They also have a little bit of a cooling, tingly feel to them when you apply them to the lips. They say they have like a peppermint vanilla scent. I definitely smell the peppermint when I wear them. them. And it's not something that bothers me, but it is something to keep in mind because it's pretty strong. They're very moisturizing, super comfortable, really glossy, just so pretty on the lips. And I think they're great on their own or on top of other lip products because they do give you that beautiful glossy finish. They're not quite as long wearing as e.l.f.'s formula, but again, if you want something that leans more in the direction of like a true glossy balm, I would go with these. And if you want something that's more like a lipstick, I would go with e.l.f. ColourPop also did lip oils from the same line, and I cannot get enough of these. These make your lips look so juicy, so hydrated. They're really gorgeous, incredibly shiny. They definitely have a little bit of a sticky feel to them, so they actually last on the lips really well, which is nice because some lip oils can wear off a little bit too fast, and once they wear off, your lips actually feel worse than when you applied the product in the first place, or than before you applied the product. And I like that these actually leave my lips feeling moisturized even once they wear off. These also have like that peppermint scent and a little bit of a cooling feel to them. The only issue that I have with these is when you open them, you have to be very careful because if you really just like whip the applicator out, a lot of the product comes out as well, so they can be a little bit messy. If you take it out slowly, you'll be perfectly fine. I also love that these have like that oversized applicator because they're just so nice to apply to the lips. So can't get enough of these. Most of these are pretty sheer overall, but some have slightly more pigment than others. I can't remember exactly when I tried this product. I think it was back in the spring or like the very beginning of the summer, and I almost got on my nerves with how much I talked about this product, but I was so impressed by the formula. I was wearing it like every single day, so I honestly couldn't shut up about it on my channel. It's from Essence. It's the Hydra Kiss Lip Oil. So this comes in 3 different shades. It is $4.99. Honestly, like if I was trying on lip oils, I didn't know who it was, I didn't know the brand, drugstore or high end, I probably would rate this. Like if I just had to like put a price to them, I would assume this was like a higher end luxury price lip oil. It feels plush on the lips. Like it has a little bit of a thick feel in a luxurious way where it just hugs the lips. It is so incredibly comfortable, very nourishing, very moisturizing. It looks really rich and glossy and juicy. I just can't get enough of these. And I feel like the ones that have a tint of color have like the perfect tint. This one looks light pink, but it's basically clear on the lips, whereas these just give your lips like a hint of color in the most perfect way. Because it is a thicker formula, I do find that it actually lasts pretty well. Some people say these have a weird scent. I guess there is a little bit of like a floral scent, and that's not typically my favorite. But I don't know if I just associate that scent with like my favorite lip oil formula, so I don't mind it. If you are sensitive to fragrance, like particularly floral fragranced lip products, you might want to skip over it. It doesn't really bother me personally, but it is something that I've read in the comments of my videos throughout the year. But either way, I do think the formula itself is absolutely stunning. Essence also came out with a really beautiful lipstick formula this year. These are called the Slim Stick Lipsticks. They retail for $4.99 and there are 10 different shades. So what I love about this formula is it's a true matte lipstick. There's no sheen, there's no shine, there's not even like a hint of a satin finish there. It is a true matte lipstick, but it doesn't feel uncomfortable on the lips. It's not drying. It doesn't really enhance a lot of fine lines or any, texture. Not texture. You know how when you have chapped lips and you wear a matte lipstick, it can just make it look 10 times worse? That doesn't happen with this formula because it is very smooth. It glides on so easily. There's no tugging. There's no extra effort to get it to really blend and wear on the lips. It looks amazing every single time. It's like the creamiest matte lipstick I've ever tried. Now, they do claim that it is a 6-hour wearing lipstick. I don't always find that to be the case. It almost wears like a traditional cream lipstick. So if you are eating and drinking or talking a lot, you are going to have to reapply it throughout the day. It doesn't like completely wear off immediately, but I do feel like a long-lasting matte lipstick usually means that it's more of a dry formula, whereas, something that's really creamy, that melts onto the lips isn't necessarily going to stay in place as well. And that's what you get out of this one. So if you value comfort over longevity, I would go with this. I mean, it's not going to wear off immediately, but I do feel like 6 hours is a little bit of a stretch. Okay, let's finish up with eye products. I did do a video sharing the best eyeshadow palettes I tried in 2024, and I did include drugstore and high-end palettes in that video, so if you want to check it out, I'll link it below. But I have to say, my favorite palette launch from the drugstore or from an affordable brand would have to be this one from Revolution Beauty. So they did 4 different palettes. They call these the Icon palettes. So I have three of them. I have the True Icon, the Eternal Icon, and the Enchanted Icon. I have talked about these quite a bit over the last month or two because they've just kind of come up naturally in different videos. They do differ a little bit palette to palette depending on which one you choose. Some of the metallics in here are more of like a foiled finish. Some have like a softer, almost satin finish. Some almost have a little bit of a duochrome effect. So depending on which palette you choose, you're going to get like different finishes within the metallic and shimmer shades. That being said, I do find the formula to be really impressive, very vibrant, super soft, really easy to apply. For the most part, I just go in with my finger and apply them all over the lid, and I don't have any issues with them. I think the matte shadows are great if you do like more of a buildable formula because you can start off softer or slowly get more of an intense look. And then each palette also comes with 2 cream shadows as well that you can use as a base or as liner. I don't experience any fading or creasing with the shadows throughout the day. Today, I mainly have shadows from this one on my eyes, the True Icon. I'm wearing a couple of the neutral shadows in the crease and the outer corner. I mean, I'll just tell you, I have this one, yeah, this one in the crease, this one to kind of blend out the edges as a transition, this one in the outer corner, and then I have this shade from the Eternal Icon all over the lid, this like gold shade right here. And then on top of that, I have this shade from the True Icon. So kind of a mix of the two palettes, but I love the way it turned out. I'm honestly impressed by this formula. These are $12 palettes. As we all know, eyeshadow and makeup as a whole, the prices are just getting more and more expensive, and you do not have to spend $70 to get a good eyeshadow palette. These $12 palettes are really great. Now, some of the palettes do look very similar to other high-end palettes. I mean, the one that is most obviously meant to look like a high-end palette is this one. The True Icon looks basically identical to Patrick Ta's Major Dimension 2, but honestly, whether you're buying these as an alternative to the high-end palette or just because you want good quality shadow from the drugstore, I just don't think you'll be disappointed. They're really, really great. If you like liquid eyeshadow, I definitely recommend checking out this line from Hard Candy. These are the Moods liquid shadows, or I think they called them like the shadow paints. So they do have 5 different colorful shades, which I do think are really fun as, you know, a one and done eyeshadow, as a base, but also as eyeliner. I love using this formula as eyeliner because it stays in place extremely well. But to be honest with you, where is it? The 3 neutral shadows are the ones that I wear the most. So I would love to see them come out with even more shades to choose from. This is my absolute favorite. Like if I could only choose one, I'd go with the shade Cake. I love wearing it all over the lid, and then I'll take like a light shimmer shadow or like Urban Decay's Moon Dust shadow in Space Cowboy and place that all over the lid, and I have a super quick, super long wearing eye look. These do blend out very, very easily, whether you're using your finger or a brush, but once they dry down, they do not move, which is why they're actually perfect as eyeliner. They lock in, they stay in place extremely well. So I highly recommend checking these out if you like a liquid matte shadow. So many brands do liquid shimmers, liquid metallics, even liquid duochromes, but you don't see liquid matte shadows as often, and I'm really glad that Hard Candy launched this line earlier this year. I've always been a big drugstore mascara fan, but I actually tried a lot of great formulas this year. So I have 3 that I want to share with you. My favorite, like quick, easy, everyday formula when I want more of a natural lash is this one from e.l.f., the Lash Extender. I think this came out at the very end of 2023. This is a tubing mascara that looks really great on the lashes. It's weird because I never really thought that I would want a natural looking mascara. Usually when you see my makeup on camera, it's somewhat similar to what I'm wearing today. It's not like quick, easy, natural makeup because when I'm filming, the kids are usually, like we usually have childcare, so I have more time to sit down and do my makeup, and that's like my me time. But when I'm running out the door in the morning, when I don't have a lot of time, but I still want to wear makeup, I usually keep things pretty light, pretty natural, and this mascara goes so well with like more everyday natural looks, and I love it because you can swipe it on, it stays in place all day long, and then it comes off at the end of the night pretty easily. This does a really great job at separating the lashes and lengthening the lashes. If you want a really dramatic, more voluminous mascara, I would recommend the one that I talk about next, but I do love this for like easy, everyday, natural makeup looks. The Essence Lash Without Limits is perfect if you want to build your mascara up and get a lot of volume, a lot of length. This mascara is actually really, really easy to build. So you can go in with one coat and still have fairly dramatic lashes, or you can continue to layer it up to get a ton of drama, which is so nice. Again, this one does come in black and brown, which is great, and I love the brown shade in this line, but I especially love the black one when I want really, really dramatic lashes. So I don't typically buy waterproof mascara super regularly. I might buy one every summer in case I do want to wear one and it's really hot outside, or I feel like I need my mascara to stay in place extremely well. I do have watery eyes, so maybe I should reach for one more regularly. But anyway, I decided to try this one because the Milani Highly Rated Anti-Gravity is one of my favorite mascaras of all time. I don't have any issues with that one flaking or smudging on me, but so many of you have said that it does flake and it does smudge on you. So when they launched a waterproof version, I wanted to try it out. And I actually like this one better than the original one. This lifts my lashes and it locks them into place all day long. So many mascaras will lift your lashes like momentarily, but throughout the day, they'll kind of fall. That's not the case with this one. This one also builds really well. It looks super dramatic. I don't know, there's something about it that looks just a little bit better than the original. I almost feel like the formula isn't quite as wet as the original. So you know how sometimes mascaras perform a little bit better after they've like dried out for a month or two? That's how this one performs as soon as you open it. So it is a great option if you're looking for a nice waterproof mascara, or if you've tried the original one and you like it, but it does flake and smudge on you, you might want to try the waterproof version because it stays in place extremely well. Okay, so those were all of my favorite drugstore makeup launches of 2024. If you want to see a video on the worst products I tried this year, I'll put it for you on the screen. And I should have my video on my favorite high-end makeup products coming very, very soon. If you want to see the video on the products that almost made this list, like the second place choices or like the runner-up list, I can definitely film that. Just let me know in the comments. And I would love to hear from you. So let me know which products you absolutely loved this year. Thanks for being here. Thank you so much for watching my videos and my channel. I really appreciate you, and I'll see you very soon with a new one. Bye.